Good morning, conference, and a very warm welcome to Harrogate. As many of you already know, I wasn't expecting to address you this year. That honour should have been with Phil Clark, who has taken up a position as South East Regional Secretary and therefore had to give up the presidency early. In his short tenure as President, Phil was doing brilliant work looking at our branch structures and how members can best be supported, and I know that his commitment and dedication to our union continues now that he's a member of staff. So I hope you don't mind taking a moment to show Phil our gratitude for his work as President, and that you'll join me in a round of applause for him. Now, having said all of that, and as Phil was supposed to be chairing this conference, I'm sure you also won't mind me sharing my feeling of irritation at the man who's dropped me in it and left me chairing the biggest event of our union calendar without ever having had the opportunity to vice chair it. But conference, I know you will be very kind to me and you'll be patient as I navigate the standing orders and inevitably make mistakes. Please. In a smaller room and to a much smaller crowd last week, I had something of a dissociative moment during a speech when I looked out at a room full of our Northern Irish colleagues and I wondered who on earth decided that I was worthy of holding a microphone and addressing them. What right did I have, a working class girl from Newcastle? I grew up poor under the Tories, and like all children whose characters are formed by deprivation, the experience has shaped every aspect of my life since. It's impossible to shake off imposter syndrome when society is structured in a way that ensures that children from disadvantaged backgrounds are never allowed to feel good enough. So I approached the task of writing this speech with a sense of real trepidation. In general, I'm quite a private person, and while I'm always happy to speak publicly about politics and education, there's been something of an established tradition of presidents delivering a biography of sorts to open conference. Well, you're not going to get that from me. But what I do want to tell you about is what an incredible difference being active in my trade union has meant to me on a personal level. I suspect many of you have similar experiences and a similar sense of gratitude as a result. All of us have worked with children who we know are dealing with a heavier burden than we'd wish for them. And we know how much it impacts on their capacity to learn, to succeed. All of us have worked with children who are hungry, whose clothes don't fit properly, who crave extra minutes of our time. Many of us have been those children. And the experiences we share are what drove us into the profession we're here representing today. I wanted to work with children like me. I wanted them to have the same opportunities I was afforded. A long-standing campaigner against child poverty, I came into teaching determined to offer the same sort of support that I had received at school. My PGCE programme leader told our cohort in 2006 that if we had a change of government, the whole of the education sector would change. I didn't believe her. 3 terms into a Labour government, and we were too complacent, too slow off the mark to fight the whole-scale assault of the Tory-led coalition government we saw elected in 2010. The damage was absolute before we even realised what we were facing. At that time, I was working in a community school in a deprived part of Gateshead, a school with children at its heart. It was a vibrant place. It was a specialist arts college which championed working-class children's creativity and believed that every child is an artist, no matter their background. A school which believed that every child should have access to the arts and pursued this aim every day. A place of challenges, yes, but a place of sanctuary, a place where children could belong and believe. Many of you will have experienced the same. Those of us who are arts teachers know the sanctity of our spaces. The art room, the music practice room, the drama studio, the dance studio. These are the places that children congregate at break and lunch and after school. the children who don't feel like they quite belong elsewhere, the children whose home lives aren't secure, the children who are gender questioning or who are questioning their sexuality, the children who need somewhere where they can just be themselves, where they can be creative. Like many of you, I witnessed this all be stripped away by a government who were dead set on limiting the education of the working class. I experienced the destruction of a school that prioritised the needs of its community. An Ofsted grading, based solely on our Progress 8 score in 2017, led to the imposition of a forced academisation order, and it was all downhill from there. The move towards a far more structured, narrow curriculum, the arrival of the suits, the clipboards, the bullying. I experienced the talk of school culture from people who have no idea what that word means. I saw the art spaces fall into disrepair as items weren't replaced, stock wasn't ordered. I saw the easels on which I had taught hundreds of children to express their own view of the world chucked into skips. I saw the joy sucked out of learning and replaced with talk of standards and expectations. Respected, valued colleagues removed from their posts for the audacity of holding an opinion not shared by the central team of the Academy Trust. One of them was my partner, Stephen, who's here with our children today. By then, I was the lead MAT rep, and I'd defended dozens of my colleagues from targeted abuse. I'd challenged the Trust on every point, including when they closed down our sixth form provision, citing financial viability. Every time I pushed back, they tried to find something to attack me on. And having failed to get to me, they came for Stephen instead. Entirely blameless and a consummate professional, they targeted him because they couldn't get to me any other way. He was just one of many committed, experienced colleagues who were the only consistent source of support for many of our students, callously discarded by a trust which didn't care or understand our community. Many of these colleagues had taught the siblings and even the parents of our students. And by the time I followed Stephen, I was one of 60 members of staff who left that one school in 18 months. I wish I could say this was an unusual story, but it's been repeated in schools, particularly schools in disadvantaged areas all over the country. The damage wrought on those communities will take decades to repair. I lived Michael Gove and Nick Gibbs' ideological destruction of everything I loved. It is an experience I will never forget and one I certainly cannot forgive. An entire generation of working class children have been robbed of art, music, drama, dance, robbed of those little life-changing daily experiences. And that's why I'm so proud of the work that the union, our union, is doing through the Arts and Minds campaign, fighting to build back what was stolen from the children we educate. But it wasn't just education they came for. It's not just the accountability structures, the ever more stringent curriculum, the weaponisation of Ofsted and the rampant privatisation that we saw in our schools. It was everything around our schools as well. Austerity hit everything. The closure of Sure Start provision and public libraries decimated the physical and mental health of our most impoverished communities, all while the NHS was stretched to breaking point and mental health services were stripped back to almost nothing. It wasn't long before my students were in as bad a position as my family and I had been in during the late 1980s and early 90s under Thatcher. When the coalition government were elected in 2010, I had already been my disabled father's carer for a number of years. He lived alone, and as his illness left him more and more incapacitated, he isolated himself from family and friends. We watched the television together in his flat, and when the Tories announced their austerity plans, Dad said to me, "It's going to get really bad now, pet." He had lived through worse times, but never worse governments. And as Ian Duncan Smith gleefully applauded the welfare cuts, I represented my father in a tribunal against the DWP's decision to remove his disability benefits. He'd had his gas cut off. He couldn't afford groceries. His elderly mother was adding tins of food to her shopping to bulk up what I was buying for him, but he isolated himself further still. He lost a lot of weight during that time and never really recovered. I had recently been elected the NUT rep in my school, and the training was exceptional. It still is. I felt confident representing my members, and we had secured some wins at work, but I still attended that tribunal with a degree of fear that I hadn't felt before. This one was personal, and I knew what losing it would mean. What I didn't know was that almost everyone who appealed the decision to revoke their benefits had the decision overturned. All it took was for someone who could advocate for themselves to challenge the decision, or for them to have someone in their lives who could advocate for them. What the government counted on was the knowledge that the majority of people they were targeting with these cost-saving measures were the most vulnerable people in our society, and that many of them had no one that would be able to help. Because of our union, because of the skills and the confidence it had afforded me, because of the support I was offered, my dad had an advocate who felt like they could take on the DWP's cruelty. When we finally got his gas back on, he cranked the heating up to the highest it would go, and he rarely ever switched it off again. It's estimated that between 2010 and 2017, 120,000 people died as a result of the Tories' austerity programme. In 2013, my dad contributed to this statistic. He was 56. When the new Labour government tell you that they need to balance the books, that they have to demonstrate fiscal responsibility, when Wes Streeting brags to the Tories across the benches that Labour have done what they never could and slashed the welfare bill, this is what they mean. Let's be clear, nearly 2 decades of economic perma-crisis have not been caused by disabled people. It has not been caused by the elderly heating their homes. Our economic crises are not caused by immigrants, not caused by refugees. They have not been caused by the trans community, and they have not been caused by children who weren't even born during the banking crisis of the late 2000s. But it is these communities It is these communities, our communities, who will continue to pay the price for the repeated failures of politicians and bankers. And yet, after 14 years of failed Tory governments, Labour are perpetuating and repeating the shameful pattern of punching down and finger-pointing. They're balancing the books on the backs of the poor. On the backs of the people who have no one to fight for them, on the backs of a generation of children whose education has been purposefully limited to such a degree that they don't even know they can fight back, let alone how. But this is our fight, and we can't shy away from it. Over the next few days, we, as a union of education workers, will set out our vision for what education should be. We'll look outwards at how we want to shape the world. We might not always agree, but we will find the common ground and stand together because, conference, things are really bad now. We've seen the rise of the far right in politics all over the Western world, and we have suffered the violence on our streets as a result of that. Many of us spent last summer resisting it, and we stood firm in the face of rioters. in the face of those who want to divide our communities, in the face of people who want to cause real, immediate harm to those who came to us looking for protection. When refugees and asylum seekers are demonized by politicians and the press, there are direct consequences. I'm not sure we've really begun to process what we saw last summer. How can we challenge rhetoric so hateful that it takes people to a hotel housing those seeking asylum and attempts to trap them inside and burn down the building? How do you even begin to unpick that? When children attack 80-year-old Bim Coley as he walked his dog in the park, leading to his death, and they film it on their phone, how do you begin to process that? When violence against women and girls is on the rise and misogyny becomes so prevalent that the Prime Minister relies on TV producers to address it in our schools, how do we challenge it? The answer is in this room conference. It's education. We are the experts. We are the people who care enough to challenge it. We won't abdicate our responsibility to Netflix. We will be the ones who repair the damage done by the last 15 years of budget cuts, privatisation, and lies told to keep us from fighting back. We have made an impact on people's lives, on an individual basis through our defence of our colleagues facing problems at work, to the unprecedented, life-saving actions taken by our primary colleagues during the COVID pandemic. They acted when the government wouldn't. Their selfless action in submitting Section 44 notices saved countless lives while the government partied behind the closed door of Number 10. I want you all to know your power. I want you to understand what we can achieve. In this room, we are going to discuss what education is, what it's for, the life-changing power of it. There is a disconnect between our vision for education and that of this government. But as always, the power for change lies in this room. I have hope in all of you. I have hope in the trade union movement, and above all, I have hope in education. So we need to reclaim education. We need to reclaim our classrooms, reclaim our schools, our nurseries, our colleges. We need to commit to a programme of education for our members, especially those who have only ever known the Gove-Gibb model of education. When they tell us there's no funding, but our buildings are crumbling and they're laying off support staff, we fight back. When they tell us they can't fund a pay rise, but they'll fund arms built in the UK and used to kill children in Palestine and Yemen, while simultaneously cutting the overseas aid budget, we are the trade union who take a stand, who raise our voices. When a primary school in Lambeth or Hackney is faced with closure, we feel it in my own district all the way up in Northumberland. 500,000 members, and an injury to one is an injury to all. Our schools belong to us. They belong to our communities. And if we don't stand together to fight, then we stand to lose everything. 50,000 of us took to the streets of London during our last round of national strike action, and we can do it again. We need to tackle the recruitment and retention crisis head-on. We need a long-term strategy for pay restoration and appropriate levels of funding. We need to restore professional autonomy and creativity. Education workers aren't drones clicking through a PowerPoint presentation and filling in data entry forms in triplicate. That's not why we do this job. It might be exhausting, emotionally overwhelming, and at times all-consuming, but we do it because we love it. When my sons were little, They used to refer to my students as Mammy's big children. And that's what successive governments have failed to understand about us. We love what we do. They've made it as hard as they possibly could. They've eliminated almost every enjoyable aspect of our day-to-day working lives. They've empowered the inspectorate to destroy our workplaces. But they can never take away the simple joy that is knowing that what we do matters. It really, really matters. There is no job more important than educating children. What I hope for during the next few days is that we can present our vision for education to the world, that we can listen to each other, learn from each other. We are living in dangerous, dark times, and our only defense is education. Our only strength is each other. We are always told that power lies somewhere at the top of society, even at the top of our union. But conference, nothing is further from the truth. Power lies here. It lies in this hall, in our schools and our colleges. Conference, it lies with you, with us. And so our union needs to help members realise their power. We can do that by building rep confidence, networking reps and activists, collectively discussing and debating, and most of all, by working together to fight those external forces who seek to prevent us making progress. The very fact that you're in this hall today shows how much you care. You've given up part of your hard-earned holiday to be here. We cannot allow ourselves to be distracted from why we're here. We're the biggest education trade union in Europe, and it's time we fulfilled our potential. I want us to fight for an education system that is inclusive, creative, joyful, schools that are properly funded, with a curriculum that allows children the time and space to think, to question, to create. I want children with SEND to have the same opportunity to thrive as every other child. I want the staff working in education to be treated with the respect they deserve for doing this incredibly important job, and to be paid accordingly. And I know you all want those things too. It's more important than ever that we stand together to fight for them. I'd like to acknowledge a couple of people before I finish. Phil Clark and Emma Rose, our past presidents. Phil, I've more to blame you for than thank you, but I do appreciate how difficult a decision it was for you, and the consideration you showed to me while you were working out what to do was hugely appreciated. You're an asset to our union. Emma, who chaired so wonderfully last year, and who worked so incredibly hard for all of us during her time as president. You're the standard I've set for myself. And although I've no chance of living up to it, I'm so lucky to have you as a role model. Our Vice President, Ed Harlow, who has been my biggest cheerleader and source of support since we ran together for the presidency. My friends and colleagues in the Northern region who are out in force today. The themed playlist is for you. My partner, Stephen, and our two boys, William and Alfred. Steve has tolerated my many... Steve has tolerated my many absences from home and supported me every time I've wavered, every time I've come home exhausted, too tired to even speak. He supported me through the challenges we faced at work and has always understood how much the union means to me. Boys, I know it's not easy to share your mum with so many other people and so many demands on my time, but your pride in me and your love for me means everything. Don't ever doubt that you two are my top priority, every minute of every day. Nothing is more important to me than you. I couldn't have done any of this without your support, and I'm so grateful for it. Lastly, my sister Amy, who has grown up in this union alongside me. I could have picked such worse ones. Amy has grown up in this union alongside me as we've navigated parallel careers in teaching. Amy in primary, me in secondary. Amy as secretary in Newcastle while I was in Gateshead, and now Amy as senior regional officer in Northern Region and me as president. We've stood alongside each other on picket lines, marched alongside each other and spoken at countless rallies all over the country. We've travelled together, shared hotel rooms, attended training courses, planned events, and even won national awards together. I am so proud of everything that you've achieved and that you continue to do for our members and our profession. And I'm so happy that you're here with me as conference secretary this week. Conference, we're in for a busy few days, but I hope you're looking forward to it. We have so much work to do. We face so many challenges. Our enemies are many, but they are not in this room. Let's work together to fight them, because if we stand together, we can defeat them all. Thank you.